All right, we talked a little football today, talked a little baseball today. We're going to jump back into the hardball because, in my opinion, this is it. This is it. You sweep the Mariners this weekend, you give yourself a fighting chance. I think if you lose just one game, you can turn out the lights. The party's over. The party is just beginning. Brian Dulik is joining us here on the program from the Medina Gazette. Does some great work as well for the Associated Press, and he has given us a few minutes here on the Sam Workman Show. What do you say, Brian? How are you today?
I'm well, Sam. Thank you. I couldn't agree with you more. That's exactly what I wrote in my preview story a few minutes ago.
Oh, wow.
It's now or never.
Yeah.
This is it. There's nothing more that needs to be said, and I agree with you. You win 2 of 3, you're 4 games out, you're still on the periphery, but anything less than that, and they are cooked.
Yeah, I agree. Brian, I have tried to hang in with this team. I threw dirt on them 2 or 3 times, but then they sucked me back in, and I thought, okay, all right, I'm not going to get fooled again, but then they've just lose 4 out of 5 and 7 out of 11. I thought, okay, this is it. You either sweep the Mariners or I'm done and they're done. Now, the big question is now, what's the likelihood that they can win 3 in a row against this team has just really been hitting the heck out of the ball and, oh, by the way, getting some decent pitching most of the time?
Yeah, it's highly unlikely. I guess the best way I think everyone should look at this is it's Labor Day weekend. They're still in the playoff hunt. Let's enjoy this series and presume this is probably going to be it for their playoff hopes. But let's not worry about anything for the next 3 days except hoping and cheering for the Guardians and letting the chips fall where they may, because it's going to be really tough for them to win 1 game, let alone 2 or more.
Yeah, I would concur. Allen and Kirby, the pitching matchup Friday night, 7:10 at Progressive Field, game 1 of that big 3-game series with the Guards and the Mems. Well, official today. Carlos Santana now no longer a member of the Guards. You know what? I got to tell you, I'm a little sad that Los is not going to be with us for the rest of the year. I know they brought him on this year, a little acquisition to kind of replace Josh Naylor. That didn't exactly work out, but he's always been a good dude, Brian. I'm a little sad to see him go.
That's exactly the way how I feel, Sam. He was so important to the clubhouse chemistry during the 2016 run and then his subsequent run, and again this season, keeping things together. He means so much more than just his numbers, and he really is a terrific guy for the franchise and for the community, and Cleveland is his home. So I'm kind of sad about that too. On the flip side, I think Chris Antonetti and the Guardians have handled this with so much class, giving a veteran the chance to sign with the playoff team well before the September 1st deadline. And the way they did it by placing him on waivers early in the week now gives him 72 full hours to find another team that can pick him up for the league minimum. They couldn't have handled it more respectfully for a veteran, and I just hope he can land with a team that's going to the postseason.
So that's my next question. Who do you think might take a shot on Carlos?
Given the way his season has gone, I think the best case scenario is probably what happened a number of years ago to Jim Thome, where the Dodgers signed him knowing he couldn't play the field, but he was going to pinch hit for the last month of the year and come up, once every 2 games in the postseason, because there's no fit for him getting regular at-bats. But compared to the guys that are realistically on the benches of every team except the Yankees, Carlos Santana would be an asset to add to you as a late inning guy or just as a defensive replacement, honestly, at first base as well. There are a lot of teams that where he could fit. It just is a matter of him and those teams connecting.
I was not thinking about the Dodgers, but I do remember that Jim Thome situation. So yeah, Brian, you might be onto something there. You might be on the, and you know what? I would be happy as all heck if he went out to L.A. and he could maybe get himself a ring here as he kind of wraps his career up. Brian Dulik is our guest, Associated Press contributor, does a great job there. Also with the Medina Gazette, busy guy. Lucky to get him on here. 1310 WDPN today here on the Sam Berkwin Show. So Brian, of the young kids that have come up, there's been a few, and I imagine we'll see some more here before too long. But CJ Kafis, what do you see there? What do you really like about his game? And anybody else that's been called up, you say, okay, this guy is worth watching here the next couple of weeks.
That's a very difficult question. We were talking about that last night, or I'm sorry, yesterday afternoon at the ballpark. There doesn't appear to be a single player they've brought up, position player wise, who you look at and say, all right, he's going to be part of the solution here. You know, Kyle Manzardo's been up and down all year. He certainly has not justified being a cleanup hitter or an everyday player. Kafis batting cleanup yesterday. He is nowhere near ready for that responsibility and is a extremely shaky defensive player. His numbers have been okay too. This team seems to have a lot more holes than any of us imagined they would even 3 months ago. Guys are just not taking that next step. And then players like Gabriel Arias, who completely spiraled in the wrong direction since May. It's tough to be optimistic about this team, and it's not like there's much help coming from the farm system either. I don't want to say this looks like a 2 or 3 year real bad run, but they've got to go outside of the organization to avoid that, because these kids are just not seizing the opportunity, except for Brian Rocchio, who's been really good since he came back up.
Yeah, you can tell he learned a little bit down there, came up with a good attitude, and for the most part, he's had a couple of gaffes in the field, but I think he's been playing pretty well. Yeah, Brian, Gabby Arias, I'm a huge fan of his. And again, I'm like with Gabby, like I am with the team. I'm about done. I just don't know if I can hang in there anymore. What happened or what didn't happen with his game? Why didn't he take that big jump that we all thought he might take?
I think we need to go back to the spring training situation. If there weren't some injuries, and if he wasn't out of options, he probably doesn't make the team to begin with. But the front office has loved his arm and has insisted he was the best defensive shortstop in the organization, dating back to when they got rid of Ahmed Rosario. He's got a great arm. I'm not sure he does anything else well enough to justify an everyday role. And the hitting looks like a pretty basic case of once pitchers see him, teams get enough film and analytics on him, he's very easy to get out. He just doesn't appear to be anything more than really a 4A hitter at best.
Brian, you mentioned that we could already have started a 2 to 3 year tear down / rebuild. And I would happen to agree with you unless something really wild happens here. What is the approach going to be? We know what the philosophy of this organization is, from the ownership all the way down to the clubhouse attendance. How are they going to operate here, say, the next year and a half or 2 years with A, trying to get a look at the young kids, B, probably moving on for, I would say, 25 to 35% of this roster is not going to be around. How do they approach this, and how should they go about this?
It worries me that they may be in a lame duck situation until the full sale of the team goes through to David Blitzer.
100% agree.
But we've still got 2 full years to get through before we get to that point.
I know.
I don't know how they sell this to fans and sponsors, and I don't know how they sell this to Jose Ramirez. They simply have to go out and sign a couple of, mid-level to low-level free agents, because it's not working with the crew they've got here. The bullpen without Emmanuel Clase is another terrible issue. There are so many problems right now. I never like to see teams give up in a season and just say, all right, let's look at our young kids. But if they don't get it done this weekend, it's time to just do that. Pull the plug on what's going on. Bring everybody up. Have some convenient injuries occur to guys who are on your major league roster. So you can IL them and just bring up the whole crew and see what you've got for a month. Because there are so many pieces that they currently have who are not part of the future. Something's got to be accomplished out of this season. And outside of getting a full year out of more or less all of their starting pitchers, nothing's gotten accomplished at all.
Brian, let me ask you to play a little psychologist here. I want you to hop in the mind of Stephen Kwan, Jose Ramirez, and Stephen Vogt. What kind of internal conversations do you think those three are having with themselves right about now?
I think Jose is very disappointed, and releasing Carlos Santana is another one of his best friends on the team. And it's been a tedious process with them getting rid of all of his friends. And that's the biggest concern I have for the overview of the organization. They got to take care of him. He's still in the prime of his career, probably starting to go down the hill just a wee bit, but he's got a number of good years left. They cannot waste it. And I know he doesn't want to leave here, but if they're not going to try to put a competitive winning team on the field for the next 2 years, Jose's got a lot of interesting discussions to have with himself, as you said. Stephen Vogt knew what the situation is when he took the job. Tito knew what the situation was going to be, which is why he left the job. I think Vogt's just kind of here and will play the hand, whatever they have that's dealt to him. And Stephen Kwan, he hasn't been very good since before the trade deadline. His defense has not been good all season either. Ton of errors, ton of bad throws. It seems to happen every other game now. I'm not sure he's a guy you want to put that long-term commitment in for a lot of money now. I'm delighted they kept him past the deadline, but this is a real important final month for him to show the team that he's worth the investment. If not, it's time to move on. And I hate to say that because he's going to have a long, very successful career, but he's got to give him a little more than he has. And he looks distracted, and he's not the same player he was the last 2 years.
Brian Dulik, our guest, Associated Press, and of course does a great job with the Medina Gazette, does a great job covering the Guardians. I'm going to throw a bunch of names at you, but I'm going to put them in a group, and you can just say, you know what, pass, fail, might be around, won't be around. And I got a feeling, man, a lot of these you're going to say just won't be around, or there's nothing much going on here. I'm just going to roll them out. Schneemann, Nolan Jones, Bo Naylor, Lane Thomas, David Fry.
I'm keeping all of them except for Lane Thomas, simply because Thomas, being a free agent, is going to want more money than they spend. Bo Naylor's defensive abilities and his ability to call a game are so good. And if you compare him to catchers around baseball in terms of offensive production, and this is scary to say, but he's an above average offensive catcher in 2025. And Nolan Jones has been a scapegoat for a lot of people. He's played a real important role in that clubhouse as a veteran since the middle of this season, a role I didn't think he would be in. He's one of the guys keeping this thing from completely unraveling, and there's a place for someone like that as your fourth outfielder.
Pitching-wise, the little skirmish in the dugout the other night with Tanner Bybee and Stephen Vogt was right there. He followed him up and down 2 laps in the dugout there. Obviously, frustrations are boiling over, but Tanner Bybee, here's another young guy that just hasn't put it together.
No, and you hope that them signing him to the pretty decent length contract before the year would have set him completely at ease. He's having the worst year of his 3 seasons. He is a very emotional kid, and we saw that last year when at least 3 times in person I saw him weep after games during press conferences. He's got to get those emotions in check. The fact that he's been pulled a number of times during his 2-year run here with Stephen Vogt between 4 1/3 and 5 innings before he could get the win definitely wears on him as well. it's not like there's a maturity issue there. He just needs to calm down and be on more of an even keel. I think he'll be fine, but he certainly doesn't look like a future ace.
Slade Ciccone, here's the guy that I like. I kind of fell in love with a little, because I love the way he battled. He's a dog out there. He has not been pitching well lately.
No.
I still think I'm on the Gavin Williams train. I just think he needs to just keep pitching every outing, every call, every day. I think he's going to get better. Is there anybody else on this staff, starter, long relief, short relief, closing role, that you think could blossom for us over this next period of 2 to 3 years?
They do like Parker Messick a lot,
okay.
Which is why they wanted to bring him up and drop Joey Cantillo down because his nitpicking and nibbling on the corners of the strike zone just had to stop, and that's why he was sent down. But they really do like Messick. He intrigues me. We still have not seen the best of Cade Smith. Being thrown in that closer role was really very difficult. And I think he'll be fine ultimately, but he's got to have a full offseason to prepare. And boy, I'm probably chucking the rest of the bullpen in the trash. I might keep Hunter Gaddis because I think he's got the right mindset, but the rest of that bullpen is atrocious. And you know, the other guy you mentioned, Slade.
Yeah.
I'm really disappointed in Logan Allen.
Yeah,
over the last
me too.
2 months too.
Me too.
Probably more than anyone else, because at least with Slade Ciccone, he is a bulldog. He's going to give you that effort. Boy, Logan Allen, there's no consistency, and there's just nothing to latch onto and say, okay, that's going to be something he builds on.
Brian, you're a lot closer to the situation than I. You're up there all the time, if not most of the time, and talking to players and kind of getting the vibe of the stadium and everything. What do you feel when you walk the streets, you're going back to your car, you're coming into the stadium? What's the vibe about the Guardians? How do the Cleveland fans that are there on the front line, how do they feel about this team right now?
Everything changed the day Emmanuel Clase got suspended. And it was palpable in the ballpark, and it stayed that way. You know, the diehard fans are always going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I would be counted in that group, certainly. But it's like the games haven't mattered since that day, and the crowd seem to know it. You're getting a lot of booing, a lot of unhappiness during games, and certainly after games on the concourse. But everybody is willing to give them a mulligan for this season, and at the end of the day, that's the way I feel too. They gave us some great adventures last year, overachieved. This year they underachieved. But I think the fan viewpoint is definitely, you got to give us a reason to want to come here to the ballpark next season.
Yep.
And it doesn't appear like one exists right now.
I would agree. A couple more and we'll let you go, Brian. I appreciate your time. We're actually the family. We're going to go up Saturday night for the Mariners game. And I'm also anxious to see, I know the college football is going to be going, so it might be a sellout. I know it's Rock and Blast. They're giving away bucket hats, and it'll probably be full. But I don't necessarily think it's going to be loud and wild and raucous. I think people are going to go because they bought tickets, and they're just going to have to go. That's kind of what the vibe I'm expecting on Saturday and maybe the whole weekend.
I completely agree. If they win tomorrow, you might get a little more juice than we expect Saturday, because the fans know how to rally in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen that how many times in our lifetimes. So that would be my hope, because it could be a really great night and a great weekend. But the Guardians got to get it runs on the board early tomorrow and go from there.
One final question, just for fun. I know we're about a month out of the regular season coming to an end. World Series, Brian. I like Milwaukee and Toronto. Who do you like?
I would say that's as good of a pick as any, but I'm going to go with the dreaded Detroit Tigers and the Los Angeles.
Ooh, hey, you know what? That would be fun. That would be fun.
I hate to say it.
That would be fun. Okay, I'm good with that. Brian, I appreciate your time. As always, have a great weekend up at the ballpark. Maybe we'll bump up next to you up in the concourse, and I always appreciate you coming on. Thanks, bud.
Yeah, I hope so. And Sam, congratulations on all the great work you're doing with WDJQ and WDPN. The high school football schedule is fantastic, and you're doing a great job. And it excites me to see the number of games you guys are at.
Thank you. We appreciate that, Brian. Thanks again. Have a great weekend.
Okay, bye-bye.
There he goes. Brian Dulik from the Associated Press and, of course, the Medina Gazette.